The World Championships hasn't happened quite yet, but the 2025 Pokemon TCG season is full underway. As of July 1st, you're able to earn championship points for the 2025 World Championships, and locals have begun in full swing. League challenges and League Cups have begun all across the world, and players are quickly racking up those finishes to try and compete for the World Championships. You're allowed a best finish limit of 4 challenges and 4 cups this upcoming season, so getting some of these events out of the way early makes for a later, less hectic time in the back half of the season. My name is Rahul Reddy, and today I played a League Challenge, my first of the season, and I ended up winning. So that's one of my 4 challenges. Today, and at this channel, we like to talk about all of our rounds, what went right, what went wrong, and how we can really improve from each of our individual games. And it's my reflection as a player to sit here and talk to you guys as an honest reflection, and you guys can hopefully appreciate what we do here. So today, I ended up playing Gardevoir. Basically, the reason I played Gardevoir is because I was super lazy and did not have the drive to build any new decks from NAIC. I thought about playing Lugia, but I couldn't find my Blood Moon Ursaluna, so I don't know where that is. And that was like, okay, sick, I can't play that deck. That eliminates a Lost Box out of the equation. That eliminates a Miraidon out of the equation. And I was like, well, I can play Dragapult and build like a really cool Dragapult deck. Didn't have the cards, or didn't know where all the cards were for it, and I didn't really like want to go find them because I was just at like all-time low yesterday after cleaning. I did a lot of cleaning and housework on my long weekend, stuff that I'd been putting off for quite a while traveling. So I was just kind of like no energy in the tank. Just took my Gardevoir list from NAIC, made a couple of changes. I took out the Fish and Collapsed, even though they were really good, because I wanted to just add more ways to beat Lost Box, I think. By adding Klefki and Second Monkey Dory, I was able to just go two Monkey, 2 Dark, basically to make it so that I have a pretty good matchup into a lot of those single prize decks in the mirror, especially because I think you got to know your local area pretty well, and I thought my local area was going to bring Lost Box because there's a lot of people who really like Lost Box and Lugia. So I figured if I bring something like this, Lost Box, Lugia, and Guardia, I think is like usually our big 3. So if I just bring something like this, I felt like I could beat all of that. And sometimes there's Zard that's splashed everywhere. So that's the reason for the Devolution that's in my deck. I think I had a Klefki in here just because I think if you have Klefki and Fluttermane up against Lost Box, they have a pretty hard time doing anything because they can bundle one of them, but then you put the other one back up, and then they get stuck under it, and they can't really zoom through their deck as fast, and they have to find Colossus early. And the lists aren't really built to do that anymore. So it makes it a little bit better. I had all the tech attackers in the deck that I think were necessary: Screamtail, Drifloon, Fluttermane, Cresselia. Ended up kind of like not using the Klefki a single time. I ended up having a 4th Iono for a little bit, but I made that a Palpad, and then that Palpad became TM Devolution. So I just basically kept the exact same supporter line I played at NAIC with no Palpad. And besides that, everything else was pretty much the same. I played a 4th Poffin over a 3rd Ultra Ball. I played 3 Ultra Ball, 3 Poffin at NAIC, and I just figured I might as well just make an additional cut to have higher chances of opening a Poffin because it's best of 1, and if I have to go first, I don't really have the greatest time like Arbining for something. And so I figured just my early setup is more than important because Gardevoir really, in my opinion, wins almost all the games it sets up. And then I made the 2 Dark for the 2 Monkeys, especially. Just, easy talk, right? So I got to my challenge. And to put in context, there is a lot of challenges going on today. I think there's like 4 challenges today. And stores were kind of allowed to schedule them pretty late into the equation, I think. Like a lot of stores were allowed to kind of schedule challenges pretty late. Like this challenge for me popped up on like Friday night on the event locator because I think the stores got their emails. Like this TO was telling me he got his email towards the end of June, so they didn't have a lot of time to kind of sit down and talk to the store owner and like figure out a good weekend in between like Magic, Lorcana, Star Wars Unlimited, this new card game that came out, and apparently Neopets has a card game, which is crazy. That's a throwback from the past, honestly. But originally I had a challenge that was like an hour, like 55 minutes to an hour away, and I really didn't feel like going after all the cleaning and stuff I did yesterday, so I was just going to skip it because I was like, I'll get my challenges at some point in time. I don't really need to get, like, it's 4, like, it'll happen. And then this challenge showed up, and I was like, oh, sick, I'll just go to this one. It's like 25 minutes from my house. So I end up getting there, and there's like a couple of regulars that come. There's like 3 dudes that I know that usually are there, and typically one plays Stall, one plays Tina, and one plays either Zard or Lugia. So I was kind of teched out for those matchups in particular, and I was like ready for, hitting one of those 3. And the regular that I usually see that plays Stall showed up, and we were talking for a little bit, and he mentioned that he's playing Chien-Pao. And I was like, okay, I think if I just win the flip and we're playing a 50-50 game, I should be fine. If not, I'm going to try to go Devo and take out both Baxes in the same turn. That's like basically my game plan to come back into the game, whatever. And the other two locals that I normally see just didn't show up. Pretty small challenge overall. We had 7 people total, which is probably the smallest challenge I've ever played in my life. Unironically, I don't think I've ever played a challenge this small. But it looks like basically the locals that come to this store, it was just me and 4 of the locals that usually come to this store, and then 2 juniors that are typically there all the time. So, yeah. And a couple of the locals that typically come for League still showed up for League at like 2 p.m. when they have like a normal League tournament, but the challenge started at noon. So some of the other locals didn't really know about the challenge or chose not to come because they were like, oh, our normal time is 2. And there was like a ton of people that showed up for locals. There was like at least 5 or 6 more people that pulled up after to play in locals, which was really cool to see. I stayed and talked for a little bit with everybody before I headed home. But this meant 3 rounds, and basically, you know, like every buy or hitting a junior was just an insane free 1-0 buff going into like wherever you need to do. I didn't do any of those, unfortunately. Long story short, round 1 I hit a Dialga player, and I had a pretty slow start. Like I ended up getting, actually no, I didn't have a slow start. I had 4 Curlias on board super early, and my opponent had 1 Dialga on the board and was not doing anything early. They ended up taking a prize on like turn 3 of the game, and if I had access to a Gardevoir, I was able to just blow up the lone Dialga with Drifloon and basically be in an insane spot, because even if they get the Zamazenta knockout or something, they had a Mew already on the board, so they were going to be forced to bench another Dialga, which then I would just be able to take out with Screamtail or something, and then I just killed a Mew and the game ends. Unfortunately, after 4 trades, I ended up missing the Gardevoir, and so I slammed the Arven confidently, and both Ultra Balls were prized, and I was like, oh my god, that is really hard. And I had like 9 cards left in deck, I think, with 2 Gardevoirs, and I was like, oh my god, this is really unfortunate. So I ended up having to preemptively, I think I counter-catchered up the Metang. I benched a Screamtail in the occurrence that he would go, my opponent would go GX attack or V-Star attack, whatever, time Star Chronos. So I would have 2 little guys that weren't Curlias to put up. And I ended up stamping because I had the unfair stamp in hand. I was like, might as well, and I hit the Gardevoir off that, and I was like sick. So I went ahead and just Screamtail sniped a Metang, to which my opponent was able to get the energies, retreat, knock my active out, but they missed this time. They missed the Star Chronos because they only had 1 Metang to work with. So they were able to Metang to their active and retreat the Metang, but they weren't able to get another Metang in play in the same turn, which gave me an opportunity to go Drifloon on that turn, blow up their Dialga. They went into Zamazenta. I knocked out the Zamazenta to go to 2. They knocked out Drifloon, and I just went Screamtail plus Monkey Dory for game. So I wasn't really in danger of losing that game, I don't think, if after my opponent basically just didn't get the Star Chronos. But the matchup felt a little bit spooky. Round 2, I go up against Regidrago, which is definitely not a good matchup for me. One of the new decks that's picking up a lot of steam. And I haven't played a ton since NAIC, and I will be forthcoming about that. So I don't really know what all these lists are supposed to look like. So I don't really know what's supposed to be in a Regidrago list, besides some of the attackers. And so as my opponent is playing the game, we end up in a board state where my opponent has now taken 3 prize cards before I've done really anything. Because I end up getting 1 Curlia up onto the board, and my opponent gets Prime Catcher KO on that, and then I get only 1 Curlia up again, or I get two Curlia on a Ralts the following turn, and my opponent gets Prime Catcher with the V-Star and kills the other Curlia again, and so I'm basically left with like a lone Curlia for half the game, which is just not feeling good. And eventually I get to a board state where I go Mind Bend, and my opponent retreats to take a knockout onto the other one, so then I go blow up the V-Star. My opponent knocks out my Drifloon to go to 1 prize card with the Teal Mask. And so now I'm making a decision of whether I go. And so my opponent is 3 on Teal Mask, 1 on both benched Teal Masks. Basically their entire hand in their deck, because they, out of my Iono, they just hit a research and were able to draw out of it. No energy on the Drago V-Star. 3 energy switch gone. I think a total of 8 grass energy showing. 1 superior showing, Prime Catcher gone, Switch gone. But I don't know. I didn't know if they played 2 Switch or not. So I was just like, do I boss up the Drago and maybe go Cresselia snipe the Ogre Pawn and then try to do that over 2 turns, the Wellspring? And then this Drago that's stuck in the active with 3 retreat, I just win by just retreating into like Guardian, killing it. Or do I just knock out the active and hope my opponent can't find like second SER or 4th E-Switch, like some combination of those pieces. So I ended up just taking the knockout on the active, which I don't know if it was correct, forcing my opponent to find boss regardless, on top of all those things. They had like 5 cards. I think they had no energies on the bench one. So they went Teal Mask, No. Sorry, they had 5 left. They had three left in deck, and they had 1 Teal Mask ability to use. And they were like, no, they had 5. They went Vessel, get an energy out, Nest Ball, get a Teal Mask out, then go to 3. Yep. So there's 3 cards left in deck, and they basically was like, cut me into something good, and they went Teal Mask for 1. And I think they were looking for the E-Switch. They didn't hit the E-Switch. They had a Boss instead, which I guess they needed part of the combo anyway. So they went Boss up my Greninja, hoping I can't retreat, but I had to retreat plus knockout on the active Ogre Pawn for game. So I definitely walked out of that one. I should not have won that one, I don't think. And my opponent definitely, I think, mismanaged his energies a little bit or mismanaged his board a little bit. Because his start was pretty insane. Like, he didn't have to discard any resources pretty much off the rip. He got, like, turn 2 Drago attack. Like, he had pretty much had, like, virtually perfect setup across the board with Prime Catcher, knocked out my only Curlia, had the V-Star to keep the chains going, didn't even discard a lot of important resources off the V-Star. So he had so much stuff left in the game that I don't feel like I should have won that game. So yeah, that's definitely one of those where, like, I wish I knew how my opponent sequenced out some of the cards in his hand to lead to that position. The third game, I go up against Chien-Pao Dunsparce. And I will preface this by saying if the Dunsparce was Bibarel at any point, I think I just cannot win the game. Granted, I think my opponent would have been kind of bricked on cards at some points and can't draw more than 5, but I just don't think I ever win the game if there's a Dunsparce. So I have I lose the flip. I have a super slow start. I open Fluttermane, and I have to go... I Pokestop first on my opponent's Pokestop to try to hit a Poffin, and I hit Curlia, Artisan, Evo, and I go... I have an Arven in hand and an Iono. And I was like, I think I just need to go Arven and see what I get. And so I slammed the Arven, and unfortunately, I prized Manaphy, and I prized the other Evo. So I have to go Poffin for double Ralts, attached to active, and pass. My opponent goes Prime Catcher, Candy Backs, gets everything up and running, knocks out my Ralts with Pow. I throw up the Flutter, I draw, attach to Flutter, Pokestop again, hit the Heavy Ball this time. I go Heavy Ball. I hit a Gardevoir also on this process. So I go hit the Heavy Ball, hit Manaphy, Rod back the guys, Arven this time again for more stuff. And then I go Evolve to Curlia because I have a Curlia in hand. Trade once. Nothing good. Just KO. I only have one Curlia. I don't even get all the Ralts into play, actually. And then I just go attack. Not even attack, just pass. And my opponent goes the Dunsparce, Rotom, Sealstone, bundle my Manaphy into the active, basically, and just knocks it out with Guy. I have Rod in hand, so I go stop one more time because I just need to see cards. I need to see something to keep me going. And I see Nest Ball, and I go Rod back Manaphy, Nest Ball back Manaphy, Iono into Ralts, I had Gardevoir in hand, sorry. So Refinement first, I go Gardevoir Evolve, bench the Scream Tail that was in my hand, Iono, don't get the knockout or the pieces for the knockout with Scream Tail. I just needed, I think, one more Psychic Energy and a way to discard it. And I hit the Psychic, but no way to discard it. So I get to go Poffin, put Ralts into play, 1 Ralts into play. And then I can't kill with Scream Tail. So I just go Monkey Dory, move 20 damage from Flutter that I just used ability to from Gardevoir onto a Frigibax. And then I go 90 on the active Chien-Pao with the Bravery Charm, 20 onto Frigibax. My opponent goes, does his turn, doesn't get a lot going because his hand size is super small and he doesn't have a Dunsparce in play, which I think, if it was Bibarel, I think he just is able to keep chaining cards and potentially just blow me up, or even find, like, avenues to go into, like, maybe Greninja or Cologne or something like that. But because he didn't have Bibarel, I think he was just struggling on hand size, like, the entire time, and his stops weren't doing him any favors after, like, turn 2. Like, I think he hit, like, Arven, Roxanne, something, and I was just like, wow, okay. So then he goes ahead and KOs my active, does the 3 energy. I end up going Scream Tail KO, Baxcalibur, and move damage counters to knock out Frigibax, which buys me a turn. And then it comes back to me after my opponent gets double Frigi back into play. And I don't have a way to knock out both Frigi because I think second Dark was prized. So I can't do... Like, I would have to go Turo, Rod, find the energy again and do it. And I think Vessel and Dark were both prized, or, like, I think I used both Vessels maybe. But I didn't have a way to access the other Dark Energy, so I just gave up on that play to kill both Frigibaxes in the same turn with Scream Tail. So instead of doing that, I accelerated 2 energies to Gardevoir, evolved to another Gardevoir, basically signaling that you're going to have to attack with Pow to even do anything from this point onwards, and I can just one-shot you when the game ends. And I just went ahead and moved 30 onto the Rotom, sniped the Rotom. I'll go down to 2, so my opponent's at 3, I'm at 2. They go attach to they just have attached to POW twice. They just retreat it into they go candy backs, retreat into the 70 HP for G and do 10 damage to knock me out, and then I just have the boss in hand for game because I've already seen pretty much my whole deck, and I get lucked out there. I think again if it's a barrel I can't win that game. So today was not like really an indicative good day for Gardevoir. I think it was just that my opponents played a little bit worse than me, and even though my earlier starts were pretty unlucky, my opponents couldn't close out the games in the way they were supposed to. So I think a very easy day that could have gone 1-2 for me ended up becoming fortunate, and I ended up going 3-0. So I'm very, very thankful and grateful for that, to have knocked off one of my challenges of the 4 that I need across the board. And I do want to show you guys the spreadsheet at the end of each video. I think for the road to 2025 Worlds, wherever it may be, I think it's good to keep the spreadsheet updated rather than doing an end-of-season update only. So I've already started compiling it. For the 2025 season, I'm allowed 4 challenges. It says hashtag num here right now because it needs like 4 things filled out here to count the best 4. And same with regionals for 6. So I don't really want to put stuff in that's blanks until I play one of those events. And so eventually I'll put it in so then it'll count. It's 600 doesn't matter, I guess. Like for a goal, I can put 1,000 as a goal for now. I have the max amount of points I can earn here. And you can see Gains Market Challenge, first out of 5 people, 3-0 Gardevoir, 15 CP earned. What did I get for playing? I paid $15 entry fee, travel, accommodation, whatever, it's all close, so I don't really care about that. And then I got $0 in store credit. I ended up getting a prize pack from Season 4 and 5 Twilight Masquerade packs, which I opened and pulled a Luxray EX from, so, you know, huge value, nothing good. And you can see already I booked a couple of regionals and events out of pocket already, so that's already happened. As you guys can see, Baltimore is a drive for me, so this will keep getting updated as the season progresses. Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoy the season. You can see X season, 2025 season, as I keep going. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the content and learned something new. But we are so back, baby. Welcome to Pokemon, and hope you guys are doing well on your early season hunt.